There's something undeniably captivating about holding a piece of the past in your hands, an object so old, so enigmatic, that it whispers secrets we've yet to fully understand. Picture this: a carved stone, a delicate tool, or an intricate figurine, each one crafted centuries or even millennia ago, yet their true purpose remains a mystery. These aren't just relics, they're riddles left behind by ancient civilizations, waiting for us to unravel them. Today, we're embarking on a journey through time to explore 36 of the most baffling ancient artifacts ever discovered, objects that defy explanation, challenge our knowledge of history, and ignite our imaginations like nothing else. What if I told you there are artifacts that seem to belong to a future era, yet they were found buried in layers of earth dating back thousands of years? Or that some objects bear markings and designs so advanced they shouldn't exist in the time periods they come from? These aren't plot twists from a science fiction novel. They're real discoveries that have left archaeologists, historians, and scientists scratching their heads. From the eerie precision of ancient machinery to symbols that no one can decipher, each artifact we'll explore today is a piece of a grand, unsolved puzzle. And the most thrilling part, despite decades of research, some of these mysteries may never be fully explained. This isn't just a video about old objects. It's an invitation to step into the shoes of a detective, to piece together clues left behind by cultures long gone. You'll encounter artifacts that hint at lost technologies, forgotten rituals, and even connections between civilizations that shouldn't have crossed paths. By the time we're done, you'll see history not as a static record of the past, but as a living, breathing mystery, one that's still being written. So, are you ready to uncover the secrets of these ancient enigmas? Let's begin. The Antikythera Mechanism is one of those rare artifacts that shatters our assumptions about ancient technology. Found in the wreckage of a 2,000-year-old ship near the Greek island of Antikythera, this intricate bronze device looks like something ripped from the pages of a steampunk novel. Its interlocking gears, precisely calibrated dials, and meticulous craftsmanship suggest a level of mechanical sophistication that historians once believed impossible for its time, around 100 years before the Common Era. At first glance, you might mistake it for a clock, but this was no simple timekeeper. The mechanism could predict solar eclipses, track the cycles of the moon, and even calculate the positions of planets with eerie precision. It was, in essence, an ancient analog computer, centuries ahead of anything else we've uncovered from that era. How did the Greeks achieve such technical mastery? Some researchers believe it was the work of brilliant minds like Hipparchus, an astronomer whose theories on celestial motion may have inspired the device's design. Others speculate it was a tool for sailors, helping them navigate the treacherous Mediterranean by the stars. But here's the real mystery. If they could build something this advanced, what else were they capable of? The Antikythera Mechanism hints at a forgotten world of innovation, one where scientific knowledge may have been far more widespread than we thought, and yet no other devices like it have ever been found. Was this a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, or are there others still buried, waiting to rewrite history? What makes this artifact even more astonishing is the sheer craftsmanship behind it. The gears were cut by hand, with teeth so finely spaced that they rival the precision of modern machinery. The inscriptions on its surface, though faded, reveal a deep understanding of cosmic cycles. It's as if the ancient Greeks peeked into the future, then left us this cryptic clue to ponder. And that's the thrill of the Antikythera Mechanism. It doesn't just challenge our timeline of technological progress. It dares us to question what else might be missing from the historical record. Could there have been an entire school of engineering lost to time? Or was this device a lone spark of genius in the ancient world? As we move forward, keep this thought in mind. If something as advanced as the Antikythera Mechanism could vanish for centuries, what other marvels might still be hidden beneath the earth or the sea? The next artifact we'll examine takes this idea even further. A relic so out of place, it seems to defy the very laws of history. The Baghdad Battery is the kind of discovery that makes you wonder if we've underestimated the ingenuity of ancient civilizations. Unearthed near modern-day Iraq, these unassuming clay jars, dating back to the Parthian period around 2,000 years ago, contain a surprising secret inside. Each one houses a copper cylinder wrapped around an iron rod, sealed with an asphalt-like substance. At first glance, they might look like simple storage containers, but when archaeologists filled them with an acidic liquid like vinegar or lemon juice, something remarkable happened. The jars produced a small but measurable electric current. That's right, these ancient artifacts could function as primitive batteries. So what were they actually used for? Theories range from the practical to the downright fascinating. Some researchers suggest they might have been employed in electroplating, coating objects with thin layers of gold or silver, a technique known in Mesopotamia for embellishing jewelry. Others propose they had medical applications, perhaps delivering mild shocks for pain relief, akin to early forms of electrotherapy. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. No wires or conductors have been found alongside these jars, leaving their true purpose shrouded in mystery. Could they have been part of a larger, lost technology, or were they experimental devices abandoned before their full potential was realized? What makes the Baghdad Battery so compelling is how it upends our timeline of scientific progress. Electricity, as we commonly understand it, wasn't harnessed until the 18th century. Yet here's evidence that someone 2 millennia earlier might have been tinkering with the same principles. It's a humbling reminder that history isn't a straight line of advancement sometimes. Knowledge is discovered, lost, and rediscovered centuries later. And if something as fundamental as electricity was within reach of ancient civilizations, what else did they know that we haven't yet uncovered? The design of these batteries reveals another layer of sophistication. The asphalt stopper wasn't just a seal, it acted as an insulator, preventing accidental discharge. The choice of metals, copper and iron, creates a chemical reaction when submerged in an electrolyte, proving whoever crafted them understood basic galvanic principles. Yet without written records or additional artifacts to provide context, we're left piecing together fragments of a puzzle with no clear picture. Were these batteries a common tool or the work of an isolated genius? Did their use spread beyond Mesopotamia, or were they a local innovation that faded into obscurity? Perhaps the most tantalizing question of all is this: if ancient people could generate electricity, what else might they have powered with it? Could there have been simple devices now lost to time that relied on these batteries? The absence of evidence isn't proof, but it does leave the door wide open for speculation. And that's the magic of the Baghdad Battery. It doesn't just challenge what we know, it invites us to imagine what we don't. As we move forward, consider this. If a 2,000-year-old battery can defy our expectations, what other inventions might be hiding in plain sight, waiting to rewrite history? The next artifact we'll explore takes this idea even further. A relic so bizarre, it seems to belong to another world entirely. The Voynich Manuscript is perhaps the most tantalizing literary mystery the world has ever known. This 15th century book, named after the rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich who acquired it in 1912, looks like something straight out of a medieval scholar's nightmare or daydream. Its pages are filled with looping, alien handwriting, a script unlike any known language, accompanied by illustrations that only deepen the enigma. Strange, otherworldly plants with no known earthly counterparts, celestial charts mapping unfamiliar constellations, and oddly posed human figures bathing in what appears to be interconnected pools of green liquid. For over a century, the brightest minds in cryptography, linguistics, and botany have pored over its pages, yet no one has managed to decipher a single coherent sentence. What makes the Voynich Manuscript so frustrating and so fascinating is how it defies every logical approach. Statistical analysis reveals patterns consistent with a real language, suggesting it's not just gibberish. The text follows linguistic rules with word repetitions and sentence structures that hint at meaning. But here's the catch: it doesn't match any known writing system, ancient or modern. Some theorists argue it's an elaborate cipher, a coded message waiting for the right key. Others propose it's a lost language, perhaps a constructed one, meant to document secret knowledge. Then there's the more radical idea. Could it be a hoax, an intricate forgery designed to baffle future generations? The illustrations only add layers to the puzzle. The botanical drawings feature plants with twisted roots and exaggerated leaves, none of which correspond to known species. Were they symbolic, imaginary, or perhaps depictions of flora now extinct? The astrological diagrams include zodiac-like symbols, but their arrangements don't align with any recognized celestial maps, and the human figures, especially the so-called nymphs in their eerie green bath, suggest rituals or scientific procedures we can't begin to comprehend. Even cutting-edge technology has failed to crack the code. Artificial intelligence programs trained on hundreds of languages have analyzed the text, only to conclude it doesn't resemble anything in their databases. Carbon dating confirms the manuscript's age, ruling out modern fakery. The vellum pages and ink composition are consistent with 15th century materials, but that's where the certainties end. Some researchers believe the answer lies in historical context, a forgotten dialect, a clandestine alchemical text, or even an attempt to preserve knowledge during a time of persecution. What's most haunting about the Voynich manuscript is the possibility that its secret might never be unlocked. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or the Baghdad Battery, which offer glimpses of ancient ingenuity, this artifact refuses to yield its truth. It stands as a silent challenge, a reminder that some mysteries are meant to endure. And if a book, an object designed to communicate, can remain stubbornly opaque after 6 centuries of scrutiny, what does that say about the limits of our understanding? As we turn to the next artifact, consider this: if language itself can become an impenetrable barrier, how much of history's wisdom might be lost in plain sight? Our next discovery takes us even further into the unknown, to an object so out of place, it seems to defy the very fabric of time. The Sakara Bird is one of those artifacts that blurs the line between ancient craftsmanship and seemingly impossible knowledge. Found in 1898 during the excavation of a tomb near Saqqara, Egypt, this small wooden figure dates back to around 200 years before the Common Era. At first glance, it appears to be a stylized bird, perhaps a falcon, a sacred symbol in Egyptian culture, but look closer and the details start to raise eyebrows. The wings aren't shaped like those of any ordinary bird. They're sleek, angled, and remarkably aerodynamic. The tail fin stands upright, almost like a rudder. To modern eyes, it looks uncannily like a model airplane. This resemblance has sparked fierce debate among experts. Could the Sakara bird be proof that ancient Egyptians understood the principles of flight? Some researchers dismiss it as a child's toy or a ceremonial object, pointing out that birds were common motifs in Egyptian art. but others aren't so quick to brush aside the possibility. When scaled-up replicas were tested, the Sakara Bird demonstrated something astonishing. It could glide through the air with surprising stability. The design suggests an intuitive grasp of lift and drag, concepts not formally studied until centuries later. If this was indeed an early experiment in aerodynamics, how did the idea come about? One theory points to the Egyptians' close observation of nature. The Nile Valley was home to birds like the African swallow, known for its agile, high-speed dives. Could artisans have tried to mimic their flight? Another, more provocative idea suggests the Sakara bird might have been inspired by something even older, a relic of lost technology or forgotten knowledge passed down through generations. After all, the Egyptians were master engineers capable of constructing pyramids with near mathematical precision. Is it so far-fetched to imagine they dabbled in flight? What makes this artifact especially intriguing is the absence of any other similar objects. If the Sakara bird was part of a broader tradition of aeronautical experimentation, where are the rest? Were they destroyed by time, or was this a lone prototype, abandoned when its creator realized the limitations of wood and human strength? The silence of the historical record only deepens the mystery. Perhaps the most compelling question isn't whether the Sakara bird could fly, but what it represents about human curiosity. Even if it was never meant to leave the ground, its form hints at a mind daring to imagine the impossible. That spark of innovation, the desire to reach beyond what seems achievable, is a thread connecting ancient artisans to modern engineers. And if a simple wooden figure can still baffle us today, what other ideas might have flickered to life in the ancient world, only to vanish like a bird in flight? This brings us to our next artifact, a discovery so strange, it seems to defy not just history but the very laws of nature. The Nazca Lines stretch across Peru's arid plains like a giant sketchbook left open under the desert sun. These enormous geoglyphs, some spanning over 600 feet, form intricate designs visible only from high above. A hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider with legs curled in perfect symmetry, spirals and trapezoids etched with geometric precision into the reddish earth. Created between 500 years before the Common Era and 500 years after, their sheer scale defies logic. How did a culture without flight or modern tools draft such massive, flawless artwork? And more perplexingly, why? Theories about their purpose range from the celestial to the spiritual. Some researchers believe the lines functioned as an astronomical calendar, aligning with solstices or constellations to mark planting seasons or religious events. Others argue they were sacred pathways walked during rituals to communicate with deities. The most haunting explanation suggests they were offerings to gods who could view them from the heavens, a desperate plea for water in this rain-starved landscape. But here's what truly boggles the mind. The Nazca people crafted these designs without ever seeing their full glory. From ground level, the lines resemble shallow trenches, their grand patterns invisible. This raises an eerie question: did they work from scaled-down blueprints, or did they possess knowledge of perspective we've yet to uncover? The engineering behind the Nazca Lines reveals astonishing sophistication. By removing the dark surface stones to expose lighter sediment beneath, the creators ensured their work would endure for millennia. The desert's windless climate preserved the lines, but their survival also hints at meticulous planning. Some glyphs incorporate the natural slope of hillsides to enhance visibility, proving the Nazca understood optical illusions long before they were formally studied. Yet for all their precision, no written records explain their purpose. Were they maps of underground water sources, as recent hydrology studies suggest? Or perhaps a complex system of ritual spaces, each glyph activated during ceremonies we can scarcely imagine. Then there's the fringe theory that refuses to fade the idea that extraterrestrial visitors guided their creation. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this, the line's otherworldly precision keeps speculation alive. After all, how does a culture without advanced mathematics or surveying tools plot a straight line miles long? But the truth may be even more remarkable. Recent experiments show that simple tools, wooden stakes and ropes, could achieve these feats through painstaking effort and communal knowledge passed down through generations. What makes the Nazca Lines so captivating isn't just their mystery, but what they represent about human ambition. These weren't monuments to kings or temples to wealth. They were ephemeral art meant for the sky itself. In a world where we document everything, the idea of creating something solely for unseen eyes feels almost alien. And that's the real wonder here. Not whether gods or astronauts inspired them, but that ordinary people could envision and execute something so extraordinary. As we leave these desert enigmas behind, consider how many other massive artworks might lie beneath our feet, faded by time or hidden by vegetation. Our next artifact challenges history in a different way, an object so advanced it seems to have slipped through the cracks of time itself. The London Hammer is the kind of artifact that doesn't just raise questions, it shatters timelines. Discovered in 1936 near London, Texas, this seemingly ordinary tool was found embedded in solid rock dated to over 400 million years old. That's right, a hammer with its wooden handle partially fossilized and its iron head fused into stone that predates dinosaurs by hundreds of millions of years. At first glance, it looks like a 19th century miner's tool, the kind you'd find in any hardware store of that era. But here's the problem. According to conventional geology, humans didn't exist when this rock formed. So how did it get there? Geologists have wrestled with this paradox for decades. Some argue the hammer is a textbook case of concretion, a natural process where minerals accumulate around an object, creating the illusion it's older than it really is. They suggest the hammer might have been dropped or abandoned in relatively recent times, only to become encased in rapidly forming stone. But critics of this theory point to the hammer's design. The iron is unusually pure, with no signs of modern metallurgical techniques like smelting or alloying. Even more puzzling, the wooden handle shows signs of partial petrification, a process that typically takes millions of years. If this hammer was truly from the 1800s, how did its wood begin turning to stone so quickly? Then there's the more radical interpretation. Could the London hammer be evidence of a lost civilization, one advanced enough to work iron long before recorded history? Proponents of this idea point to ancient myths and texts describing advanced tools and metalworking in prehistoric times. The Book of Enoch, for example, speaks of fallen angels teaching humanity the secrets of forging metals. Could there be a kernel of truth in these stories, or is the hammer a glimpse of something even stranger, like time travel? While mainstream science dismisses such theories as speculative, the artifact's very existence forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that our understanding of history might have glaring gaps. What makes the London hammer so compelling isn't just its mysterious origin, but what it represents about the nature of discovery. Every so often, an artifact surfaces that doesn't fit neatly into our historical framework. These outliers, called uparts, or out-of-place artifacts, challenge us to reconsider what we think we know. Could there have been pockets of advanced knowledge lost to cataclysms or simply erased by time? The hammer's discovery site offers no clues of a larger settlement, no other tools or debris. It's as if the object was placed there intentionally, a single enigmatic clue meant to provoke endless debate. Perhaps the most sobering lesson of the London Hammer is how little we truly understand about Earth's deep past. If a simple tool can upend our assumptions, what else might be hidden in the layers of rock beneath our feet? The implications stretch beyond archaeology. They touch the very core of human curiosity. Are we the first civilization to walk this planet, or merely the latest in a long line of innovators whose achievements have crumbled to dust? This brings us to our next artifact, one that doesn't just challenge history, it rewrites it. Buried beneath the jungles of Central America lies an object so perplexing, it forces us to reconsider the very origins of human ingenuity. The Dropa Stones are the kind of discovery that blurs the line between archaeology and science fiction. Found in 1938 by a Chinese archaeologist exploring the remote Bayan Karaula Mountains, these peculiar stone discs, some as wide as a dinner plate, others no larger than a coin, immediately stood out. At first glance, they resembled ordinary Neolithic artifacts, but closer inspection revealed something extraordinary. Each disc bore a series of minuscule spiral grooves, and when examined under magnification, those grooves resolved into tiny, precise hieroglyphs unlike any known writing system. The script, according to translations later claimed by researchers, told an astonishing story. 12,000 years ago, a spacecraft carrying beings called the Dropa crashed in these mountains, leaving survivors stranded on Earth. Now, here's where the controversy ignites. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss the Dropa stones as an elaborate hoax, pointing to the lack of verifiable documentation from the original expedition. No photographs of the discs in situ exist, and the only alleged translations come from a single, now deceased researcher whose notes are hotly debated. Even the stones themselves have vanished from public view, with most known specimens reportedly confiscated or lost during China's turbulent 20th century. But the intrigue persists. Why? Because the few detailed sketches and descriptions that survive describe carvings so intricate, so unnervingly precise, that they defy easy explanation as mere forgeries. The spiral text, if genuine, would require tools and craftsmanship far beyond what's attributed to Neolithic cultures. Then there's the cultural layer to the mystery. Local legends in the Bayan Karaula region speak of small, slender beings with large heads who descended from the sky long ago, a striking parallel to the Dropa narrative. Could these tales be distorted memories of an ancient encounter, or are they coincidental folklore, reshaped over millennia to fit modern UFO mythology? The debate rages on, with some researchers suggesting the discs might be ritual objects or astronomical calendars, their true purpose lost to time. Others propose a middle ground. Perhaps the stones are genuine artifacts, but their alien interpretation stems from mistranslation or imaginative leaps. What makes the Dropa stones so compelling isn't just their alleged extraterrestrial connection, but what they reveal about our fascination with the unknown. Humanity has always looked to the stars and wondered if we're alone. These discs, whether hoax or historical anomaly, tap into that primal curiosity. They force us to ask uncomfortable questions. If an advanced civilization did visit Earth in prehistory, how would we recognize the evidence? And if such evidence existed, would we even believe it? The stones also highlight a broader pattern in archaeology. Across the globe, from the Nazca Lines to the Dogon people's astronomical knowledge, there are artifacts and traditions that seem to hint at impossible connections. Could these be fragments of a larger, forgotten narrative? Or are we projecting our modern desires onto the past, seeing spaceships where ancient people saw gods? The truth may lie somewhere in between, a reminder that history is often stranger than fiction, but rarely as tidy. As we turn to our next artifact, consider this. If stones can spark debates about interstellar contact, What happens when we find an object that doesn't just hint at the unknown, but seems to predict it with uncanny accuracy? The answer lies in a device so ahead of its time, it's as if its creators peered into the future. Deep within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, a peculiar carving stares back at visitors like a riddle carved in stone. The so-called Dendera light relief shows what appears to be an oversized bulb, its interior marked by a twisting snake resembling a glowing filament, while a pillar-like base supports it and a mysterious cable seems to connect to a box held by a priest-like figure. To modern eyes, it looks uncannily like an ancient electric lamp, but how could that be possible in 1st century Egypt? This single image has sparked one of archaeology's most heated debates, dividing experts into two passionate camps. Those who believe the carving represents actual technology point to intriguing parallels. The bulb-like shape mirrors early 20th century Crookes tubes, experimental light sources that used electrical discharges to create illumination. The filament follows the same curved path seen in modern incandescent bulbs, and the supporting pillar could be interpreted as an insulator. Even the box held by the figure resembles ancient descriptions of batteries, like the Baghdad artifacts we discussed earlier. If these elements are taken literally, they suggest the Egyptians might have harnessed electricity for illumination, perhaps using primitive bulbs filled with gas or chemicals that glow when charged. Proponents of this theory highlight the absence of soot in certain temple chambers, asking how else workers could have painted detailed murals in windowless underground rooms without leaving traces of torch smoke. But mainstream Egyptologists offer a very different explanation. They argue the light bulb is actually a symbolic representation of a jed pillar, an emblem of stability emerging from a lotus flower, a common motif in Egyptian art. The filament could depict a snake born from the lotus, representing the god Harsomptus and the cycle of creation. The surrounding figures, they note, are celestial deities, not technicians, and the entire scene aligns with well-documented creation myths involving serpentine energies. The absence of supporting artifacts or textual references to electric lighting further undermines the technological interpretation. What makes the Dendera light so fascinating isn't just the disagreement over its meaning, but what it reveals about how we interpret ancient symbols through modern lenses. Every generation tends to see relics of the past in terms of its own technological achievements. In the 19th century, some scholars mistook ancient flying machine carvings for hot air balloons. Today, we project our knowledge of electricity onto these temple walls. This cognitive bias, called artifact pareidolia, reminds us that ancient minds might have conceptualized the world in ways we can't easily recognize. Yet the possibility lingers like an unextinguished flame. Could both interpretations contain fragments of truth? Ancient cultures often encoded practical knowledge within religious symbolism. The serpent, for instance, wasn't just a mythological creature. It represented invisible forces, from underground rivers to neurological energy. If the Egyptians observed static electricity from certain minerals or eels, might they have depicted it as a divine light without fully understanding its scientific principles? The Dendera carving sits at this tantalizing intersection of observation, symbolism, and lost context. The real lesson here may be about humility. For all our advanced tools, we still can't definitively say what inspired this carving 20 centuries ago. It stands as a mirror, reflecting our own assumptions back at us every time we try to decode it. And that uncertainty is precisely what makes archaeology so thrilling, not just the answers we find, but the questions that keep us searching. This brings us to our next artifact, one that doesn't just challenge our understanding of ancient technology. It redefines what we thought possible in the realm of human creativity and precision. Hidden beneath the waves of the Mediterranean lies an object so perfectly engineered, it seems to defy the limitations of its era. The Piri Reis Map is one of those rare artifacts that doesn't just surprise historians, it completely upends our understanding of early cartography. Drafted in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this weathered fragment of a larger world map shouldn't exist, at least not with the details it contains. At first glance, it's a masterpiece of 16th century navigation, showing coastlines of Europe, Africa, and the Americas with remarkable accuracy. But look closer and things get strange. The map includes the northern coastline of Antarctica, a continent Europeans wouldn't officially discover for another 300 years. Even more baffling, Antarctica is drawn without its ice cap, as it would have appeared thousands of years before Piri Reis put quill to parchment. How could a 16th century cartographer have known this? Reis himself left clues in the margins, noting that his work was compiled from older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. He even referenced a mysterious map drawn by Christopher Columbus, now lost to history. This suggests Reis wasn't working from first-hand exploration, but piecing together knowledge passed down through centuries, possibly from civilizations far older than his own. Some researchers point to the ancient library of Alexandria, whose vast archives might have housed precise geographical records later scattered or destroyed. Others take a more radical view. Could these maps have been based on aerial surveys or even extraterrestrial guidance? While that idea strays into speculation, it's undeniable that the Piri Reis Map hints at a forgotten era of exploration, one where seafarers or scholars knew far more about the world than history books suggest. The precision of certain features defies explanation. The map accurately places the Amazon River's mouth and the Andes Mountains, details European explorers hadn't yet documented. It even accounts for the curvature of the Earth, a concept formalized in Reis's time but rarely applied with such technical skill. Modern comparisons using satellite imagery reveal eerie overlaps between the map's outlines and actual coastlines, particularly in Antarctica's Queen Maud Land region. Skeptics argue these could be coincidences or creative flourishes, but the sheer number of accurate details makes that hard to swallow. What's most haunting about the Piri Reis Map isn't just what it shows, it's what it implies about lost knowledge. If ancient cultures had the ability to chart the world with such precision, what else did they understand about our planet? Were there advanced maritime civilizations predating recorded history, their achievements erased by time or catastrophe? The map's existence forces us to reconsider the timeline of human discovery. After all, Antarctica's ice-free coastline hasn't been visible since at least 4,000 years before the Common Era. Whoever first mapped it must have done so in an era when woolly mammoths still roamed parts of the Earth. This brings us to a broader question: how many other maps like this once existed? The Piri Reis fragment is just one of several anomalous medieval charts, like the Orontius Phineus and Mercator maps, which also depict Antarctica with unsettling accuracy. Were these all based on the same ancient source, a master atlas now turned to dust, or do they point to a golden age of exploration we've yet to uncover? The answers might lie buried in some undiscovered archive or crumbled to ash centuries ago. Until then, the Piri Reis Map remains a tantalizing glimpse into the shadows of history, where the line between myth and reality blurs. As we turn to our next artifact, consider this. If a single map can challenge everything we know about early exploration, what happens when we encounter an object that defies not just history, but the very laws of physics? The answer lies in a relic so perplexing, it seems to operate outside the boundaries of nature itself. Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, nestled among rivers and hidden beneath centuries of overgrowth, lie some of the most perplexing objects ever shaped by human hands, the stone spheres of Costa Rica. These massive, perfectly round balls, some as large as 9 feet in diameter and weighing up to 16 tons, seem almost too precise to be the work of an ancient civilization. Discovered in the 1930s while clearing land for banana plantations, they've since become one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. How could a culture without modern tools or mathematical instruments carve spheres of such flawless symmetry? And why the craftsmanship is nothing short of astonishing. Made from gabbro, a hard volcanic rock, the spheres vary in size but share an eerie uniformity in shape. Laser scans have revealed deviations of less than 2 centimeters in diameter, a level of precision that rivals modern machining. Even more baffling is how these stones were transported. Many were found miles from their nearest possible quarries, suggesting an advanced understanding of logistics. Some theories propose they were rolled on logs or floated on rafts, but moving multi-ton stone balls through dense jungle without damaging them would have been a monumental feat. What tools did these artisans use? Archaeologists have found no chisels or hammers capable of such work, leaving the method of carving shrouded in mystery. Purpose is another puzzle. Local legends speak of the spheres as gifts from the gods or relics of a lost civilization. Some researchers believe they served as astronomical markers, aligned to track solstices or celestial events. Others argue they were status symbols displayed by powerful chiefs to project authority. A few even suggest they were part of a larger, geometric pattern, a message or map meant to be read from above. The truth may lie in their context. Many spheres were found near burial sites or arranged in deliberate groupings, hinting at a ritual or ceremonial function. Yet without written records from the Dikwi's culture that created them, we're left to piece together clues from silent stones. What makes these spheres especially fascinating is how they echo similar artifacts across the globe. From Easter Island's Moai to Britain's Stonehenge, ancient cultures seemed obsessed with manipulating massive stone with uncanny precision. Was there a shared knowledge, a forgotten school of engineering that spanned continents, or did separate societies stumble upon the same techniques independently? The stone spheres of Costa Rica stand as a testament to human ingenuity, and a humbling reminder of how much we still don't know about the past. As we move forward, consider this. If ancient artisans could shape stone with such perfection, what else might they have mastered? Our next artifact takes this question even further, challenging not just our understanding of craftsmanship, but the very limits of ancient metallurgy. The Iron Pillar of Delhi stands as a silent sentinel to ancient ingenuity, defying time in a way that still leaves metallurgists scratching their heads. Rising 23 feet above the Qutb complex, this 1600-year-old monument bears not a single speck of rust, despite centuries of monsoons, scorching heat, and urban pollution. Forged from 98% pure wrought iron, a feat in itself for 4th century India, its corrosion resistance rivals anything modern science can produce. What secret recipe did these ancient metalworkers possess? The answer lies in a perfect storm of craftsmanship, accidental chemistry, and possibly divine intervention. Modern analysis reveals the pillar's immunity isn't magic, it's physics. A thin, protective layer called mesawite forms on its surface, a crystalline barrier created by the high phosphorus content in its iron. Unlike today's steel, which removes phosphorus as an impurity, the pillar's creators unknowingly harnessed it. The result, a self-healing shield that reacts with oxygen and moisture to create an ever-renewing armor against decay. But here's the twist. Replicating this effect in modern labs has proven maddeningly difficult. Even with identical materials, the exact conditions, perhaps the slow cooling process or the unique iron ore from India's mines, remain just out of reach. The pillar's construction only deepens the mystery. Inscriptions suggest it was originally erected as a tribute to the Hindu god Vishnu, crowned with his emblem, the chakra. Some scholars believe its metallurgical perfection was intentional, a symbolic representation of divine permanence. Others argue it was simply the pinnacle of Gupta-era engineering, when Indian smiths mastered wind furnaces reaching temperatures high enough to purify iron without modern bellows. Local legends claim the pillar was imbued with mystical properties, that anyone who could wrap their arms around it would have their wishes granted, though its smooth, unblemished surface suggests few succeeded. What's most haunting about this artifact isn't just its resilience, but what its existence implies. If artisans could achieve such metallurgical mastery 16 centuries ago, what other techniques have vanished from history? Contemporary texts describe Indian steel so renowned that Arab traders called it Serek iron, prized for sword blades that could bend without breaking. The iron pillar hints at a broader tradition of advanced metalworking, one that might have included other lost alloys or forging methods. Were these skills guarded secrets passed down through guilds and lost to invasions or time? Or did they stem from observations of natural processes, like the way certain rocks resisted weathering? This pillar doesn't just challenge our timeline of technological progress, it quietly mocks it. While the Eiffel Tower requires constant repainting to avoid rust, this ancient column has stood unyielding since the days when Rome still ruled Europe. Perhaps its greatest lesson is humility, that our ancestors, armed with nothing but fire, hammers, and keen observation, achieved feats we're only beginning to understand. As we turn from this unbreakable relic, another artifact awaits, one that doesn't just resist decay, but seems to warp the very fabric of time and space. Hidden in a Peruvian mountaintop lies an object so precisely engineered, it defies the tools of its era. The Koso Artifact is the kind of discovery that makes even the most skeptical scientist pause. Found in 1961 by 3 rockhounds searching California's Coso Mountains, this small, mysterious object was encased inside what appeared to be a 500,000-year-old geode, a hardened mineral nodule formed over millennia. But when they cracked it open, they didn't find crystals or fossils. Instead, nestled inside was something that looked unmistakably like a 20th century spark plug. The implications are staggering. How could a man-made object, specifically a champion brand spark plug from the 1920s, become sealed inside ancient rock? Some theorists leaped to extraordinary conclusions. Evidence of time travel, perhaps, or remnants of an advanced civilization that thrived before recorded history. The artifact's outer shell, initially identified as a geode, only deepened the mystery. X-rays revealed a hexagonal metal core, porcelain insulator, and even what resembled a copper spring, components eerily similar to early automotive parts. If genuine, this would mean someone or something had access to modern technology 500,000 years before humans supposedly invented the wheel. But here's where the plot thickens. Skeptics quickly offered a more mundane explanation. The geode might not be a geode at all. Geological re-examination suggested it could be a concretion, a hardened lump of minerals that forms much faster around existing objects, sometimes in mere decades. The spark plug might have been a mundane piece of mining equipment from the early 1900s, encased by natural processes that mimicked the appearance of extreme age. Even the dating methods came under scrutiny without clear stratigraphic context. Assigning a 500,000-year age was speculative at best. Yet the artifact refuses to be dismissed so easily. The precision of its internal structure still puzzles researchers. Why would a simple mineral concretion form around an object in such a way as to perfectly mimic a spark plug's components? And why hasn't anyone found similar concretions around other modern debris in the same region? The debate rages on, fueled by the absence of definitive proof on either side. What remains is a tantalizing question. If this object is a hoax or misidentification, why does it challenge our assumptions so effectively? And if it's genuine, what other anachronistic artifacts might be waiting beneath our feet? This isn't just about a single oddity, it's about the boundaries of what we consider possible. History is littered with objects that don't fit neatly into our timelines, from the Antikythera Mechanism to the Baghdad Battery. Each one forces us to reconsider the narrative of human progress. Were there flashes of advanced knowledge in the distant past, snuffed out by catastrophe or simply forgotten? Or do we underestimate nature's ability to play tricks on us, creating shapes and patterns that mirror our own inventions? The Koso Artifact lingers in that ambiguous space between revelation and ruse, a Rorschach test for how we view the past. For some, it's proof of lost civilizations or visitors from another time. For others, it's a lesson in how easily perception can outpace evidence. But perhaps the most compelling idea it offers is this: the Earth holds secrets we haven't even begun to imagine. Now let's shift from enigmatic objects to something even more intangible: sound. Our next artifact doesn't just challenge history, it sings to us across the centuries, revealing a technology so advanced it feels like magic. The Great Pyramid of Giza has guarded its secrets for over 4,500 years, but modern technology is finally peeling back layers of its ancient mystery. In 2017, a team of scientists using advanced muon tomography, a technique that scans structures with cosmic rays, made a startling announcement. Hidden deep within the pyramid's core, beyond the known chambers and passageways, lie two previously undiscovered voids. The larger one, dubbed the Big Void, stretches nearly 100 feet long above the Grand Gallery, its purpose as enigmatic as the pyramid itself. These aren't mere cracks or structural gaps, their precise dimensions and alignment suggest deliberate design. So what or who might be concealed inside? Theories range from the archaeological to the fantastical. Some researchers believe these chambers could hold burial artifacts meant to accompany a pharaoh into the afterlife, perhaps even the lost treasures of Khufu himself. Others speculate they might house construction records, scrolls, or tablets detailing how the ancient Egyptians engineered this marvel with such precision. Then there are the more provocative ideas. Could these voids contain relics of a far older civilization, one that predates dynastic Egypt? Proponents of this theory point to the pyramid's astronomical alignments and mathematical perfection, arguing such knowledge couldn't have emerged overnight. The secrecy surrounding recent exploration attempts only fuels speculation. When a robotic camera sent through a narrow shaft in 2011 revealed hieroglyphs and a small door with copper handles, the footage was abruptly classified, leaving the public to wonder what authorities didn't want seen. What makes these hidden spaces so tantalizing isn't just their content, it's the question of why they were sealed in the first place. The ancient Egyptians meticulously documented burial practices, yet no known texts mention these chambers. Were they meant to be found, or were they deliberately obscured? The pyramid's design suggests they weren't accidental. The Big Void's alignment mirrors that of the king's chamber below, hinting at symbolic significance. Could they represent the Juat, the hidden realm of the dead in Egyptian cosmology? Or were they practical features, like counterweights to stabilize the structure during construction? Without physical exploration, we're left with shadows and echoes. the real challenge lies in accessing these spaces without damaging the pyramid. Current non-invasive techniques can only reveal so much, and drilling or tunneling risks harming irreplaceable history. This ethical dilemma leaves us at a crossroads. Do we prioritize preservation over discovery, or might future technology offer a way to peer inside without intrusion? Until then, the voids remain a silent challenge to our curiosity, a reminder that even the most studied monuments on Earth can still harbor secrets. Now, let's shift from hidden chambers to an artifact that whispers of ancient medicine. Deep in the deserts of Peru, a set of skulls bearing precise surgical cuts raises an even more startling question. Did an advanced civilization master brain surgery thousands of years before modern science? The Ubaid lizardmen statues stare back at us from the dawn of civilization, their almond-shaped eyes and elongated heads whispering of a reality far stranger than history books describe. Unearthed in modern-day Iraq at the ancient site of Tel el-Ubaid, these 7,000-year-old figurines depict humanoid figures with unmistakably reptilian features, slit-like pupils, scaled textures, and postures that hover between the ceremonial and the unsettlingly lifelike. Some cradle infants against their bodies, while others strike poses that suggest ritual or authority. But here's what grips the imagination: these aren't isolated oddities. Hundreds of similar statues have been found across Ubaid culture sites, all echoing the same eerie theme. Were they symbolic representations of gods, imaginative art, or something far more provocative? Mainstream archaeology leans toward symbolism. The Ubaid culture, a precursor to Mesopotamia's famed Sumerians, often depicted deities as hybrids part human, part animal, to embody otherworldly power. The serpent, a near-universal symbol of rebirth and wisdom, might have inspired these figures as guardians of fertility or the underworld, yet the statue's anatomical precision gives pause. Unlike the exaggerated features of mythic art, the lizard-like traits are rendered with almost clinical detail, down to the subtle ridges mimicking scales. This has led some researchers to speculate: could they represent a forgotten priesthood that adorned themselves in reptilian garb for ceremonies, or even a distinct ethnic group with genetic anomalies? Then there's the more controversial thread, the ancient astronaut theory. Proponents point to global parallels: the serpent gods of Mesoamerica, the Naga of Hindu-Buddhist lore, even the Anunnaki described in Sumerian texts as those who from heaven to earth came. Could the Ubaid statues be evidence of extraterrestrial contact, or ancestral memories of a reptilian species that once walked among humans? While academic circles dismiss this as pseudoscience, the statue's ubiquity raises questions. Why would a culture with no known zoological obsession fixate on such specific, consistent imagery unless it held profound significance? The truth may lie in the dirt itself. Ubaid sites reveal no skeletal remains matching the statues, no murals depicting live lizard people, yet their art hints at a world view where boundaries between human, animal, and divine blurred. Perhaps these figurines were talismans, meant to channel the perceived strengths of reptiles like regeneration or adaptability in a harsh prehistoric world. Or maybe they're relics of a lost origin story, one where humanity's ancestors emerged not from apes, but from older, stranger lineages. What makes the Ubaid lizardmen so compelling isn't just their mystery, but what they reveal about human creativity. Across millennia and continents, we've sculpted beings that defy nature, from Egypt's sphinxes to Greece's centaurs. These statues force us to ask, are myths born purely from imagination, or do they sometimes spring from half-remembered truths? As we turn from these enigmatic figures, another artifact awaits, one that doesn't just depict the unknown, but maps the heavens with impossible precision. High in the Andes, a stone calendar doesn't just track time, it seems to predict it. The Nebra Sky Disk gleams like a piece of the night sky frozen in bronze, its golden arcs and crescents mapping celestial movements with uncanny precision. Discovered in 1999 by treasure hunters in Germany's Zigerode forest, this 12-inch disk dates back an astonishing 3,600 years, making it the oldest known portable representation of the cosmos. At first glance, it appears deceptively simple, a dark blue-green background dotted with gold symbols, but look closer and the sophistication becomes undeniable. A cluster of 7 stars almost certainly represents the Pleiades, a key navigational marker for ancient cultures. A crescent moon and full moon, or possibly a sun, book in the heavens, while 2 graceful arcs along the edges track the solstices, marking the sun's annual journey across the horizon. What's truly remarkable isn't just the disk's beauty, but what it reveals about Bronze Age minds. How did people without telescopes or written records chart the skies so accurately? The alignment of the Pleiades with the lunar crescent suggests meticulous observation over generations, noting how this star cluster's position relative to the moon signaled planting and harvest times. The solstice arcs, spanning exactly 82 degrees, match the sun's seasonal movement between the Harz Mountains' peaks, proof that these ancient astronomers tied celestial patterns to their local landscape. Some researchers believe the disk was a computational tool, its elements adjustable to track lunar years and synchronize them with solar cycles, essentially a prehistoric calendar. Others argue it was a sacred object, used in rituals to harmonize human activity with cosmic rhythms. The discovery site adds another layer of intrigue. Found buried with swords and tools atop Mittelberg Hill, the disk was likely hidden during a time of upheaval, perhaps to protect its knowledge. This wasn't just art, it was a working instrument of science and spirituality, passed down through generations. Chemical analysis traces its copper to Austria and gold to Cornwall, revealing a pan-European trade network that exchanged not just goods but ideas. Who were the astronomers who crafted it? The Unetis culture to whom it's attributed left no written records, but their burial mounds and metalwork suggest a society capable of complex abstraction. Then there's the haunting question, was the Nebra Sky Disk alone? Similar artifacts may have been lost to time, melted down or repurposed. Its survival offers a fleeting glimpse into a world where sky and earth were intimately connected, where bronze could capture moonlight and human hands could trace the paths of stars. Modern experiments show that even today, with no tools but the disk itself, an observer can predict lunar phases within a 2-hour window, a testament to its designer's genius. As we marvel at this ancient star chart, another artifact calls to us, one wrapped not in bronze but in myth. Legends speak of a mirror that doesn't reflect the viewer's face, but the threads of destiny itself. The Holy Grail isn't just a relic. It's an idea that has haunted the human imagination for over 1,000 years. Described as the cup used by Christ at the Last Supper and later by Joseph of Arimathea to catch his blood at the crucifixion, this object transcends archaeology, weaving itself into the fabric of art, literature, and even pop culture. But here's the burning question: could such a vessel actually exist, or is it purely symbolic? The stories surrounding the Grail range from the divine to the bizarre. Some claim it grants eternal youth, others say it heals wounds, and a few even suggest it's not a cup at all, but a stone, a book, or even a bloodline. Historical records offer tantalizing clues. Medieval chroniclers like Chrétien de Troyes and Wolfram von Eschenbach wove elaborate tales of knights questing for the Grail, embedding cryptic details that some believe point to real locations. Glastonbury Abbey in England, for instance, has long been tied to Grail lore, with legends claiming Joseph of Arimathea brought it there, planting his staff into the ground where the famous Glastonbury thorn tree now grows. Then there's the enigmatic Knights Templar, who supposedly guarded the Grail during the Crusades before vanishing into obscurity. Their secretive rituals and sudden downfall have fueled theories that they hid the relic somewhere beneath Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland or deep within the Pyrenees. Yet for every theory, there's a counter-argument. Skeptics argue the Grail is purely allegorical, a metaphor for spiritual enlightenment or divine grace, not a physical object. The earliest references in Christian texts don't describe a miraculous cup, and the Grail's prominence surged only in the 12th century, coinciding with the rise of chivalric romance. Even the word Grail might stem from the Old French graal, meaning a shallow dish, or the Latin graidoles, a stepped vessel used in rituals. Without concrete evidence, the line between artifact and myth blurs. What makes the Grail so enduring isn't just its mystery, but what it reveals about our fascination with the sacred and the lost. From the Ark of the Covenant to the Spear of Destiny, humanity has always sought tangible connections to the divine. These relics aren't just objects, they're vessels for our collective longing, mirrors reflecting what we value most. The Grail's allure lies in its duality. It's both a historical puzzle and a spiritual beacon, a treasure that might be hidden in a dusty crypt or living quietly as an idea in the human heart. As we turn from legend to invention, another artifact shatters expectations. Far older than the Grail stories, a 4,000-year-old device suggests ancient civilizations might have mastered technology we thought impossible for their time. Buried in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece, this intricate bronze mechanism rewrites the history of human innovation. The main penny sits quietly in a museum display case, its weathered surface telling a story that rewrites history books. This small Norse coin, minted in Norway between 1065 and 1080, was found buried in a Native American shell midden at the Brooklyn, Maine site, 1,000 miles south of the only confirmed Viking settlement at Elance Ox Meadows in Newfoundland. At first glance, it could be dismissed as a hoax or a stray coin dropped by a modern collector, but the context tells a different story. Archaeologists uncovered it during a 1957 excavation, nestled among artifacts dating to the 1200s, centuries before Columbus sailed. The coin's patina and where patterns match its claimed age, and its location far from any known colonial trade routes, suggests it arrived long before European colonization began. How did this piece of Viking currency end up in prehistoric Maine? The most plausible explanation is also the most thrilling. Norse explorers ventured much farther into North America than we've ever proven. The sagas of Leif Erikson describe lands like Vinland, believed to be parts of modern-day Canada, but the main penny hints at journeys stretching even further south. Coastal Native American tribes were skilled navigators, known to trade goods across vast distances. Could the coin have passed through indigenous trade networks, traveling from a Norse outpost to Wabanaki hands over generations? Or does its presence indicate a forgotten Viking expedition that reached New England's shores? The artifact gains even more intrigue when paired with other clues. The Newport Tower in Rhode Island, once dismissed as a colonial windmill, shares striking architectural similarities with Norse round churches. Mysterious runestones like the Kensington Stone in Minnesota, though heavily debated, hint at possible inland exploration. Even biological evidence fits the puzzle. Butternuts found at Elance Ox Meadows couldn't have grown that far north, suggesting Vikings foraged as far south as New Brunswick. Taken together, these fragments paint a picture of sporadic but far-reaching Norse contact, a chapter of history that's only beginning to emerge from the shadows. What makes the main penny so revolutionary isn't just its existence, it's the questions it forces us to confront. If a single coin could travel so far, what else might have been exchanged? Diseases, technologies, or even ideas could have crossed the Atlantic centuries before we assumed. The Wabanaki people's oral histories speak of bearded strangers, and Norse sagas mention encounters with indigenous tribes they called Skraelings. These fleeting contacts, once dismissed as legend, now seem tantalizingly plausible. Yet the penny remains an outlier, a solitary clue in a centuries-old mystery. Without more definitive evidence, a shipwreck, a settlement, or tools, it's a whisper rather than a shout. But that's the nature of archaeology. Sometimes the smallest objects carry the weightiest implications. As we turn from this copper enigma, another artifact defies not just history but the very laws of motion. Hidden in a Swiss museum lies a device so advanced it seems to have fallen out of time itself. The Beggong Pipes weave a mystery as tangled as the twisted metal tubes themselves. Nestled deep within Mount Beggong in China's Qinghai province, these strange iron conduits jut from cave walls like the rusted veins of some ancient machine. Discovered in the late 1990s, their age is staggering, dating back at least 150,000 years, long before humans supposedly mastered metallurgy. The pipes vary in size, from mere straw-like strands to massive tubes nearly 16 inches in diameter, all embedded in rock formations that predate recorded civilization. Even more perplexing, geological surveys reveal the pipes extend far beyond the caves, running underground like the skeletal remains of a forgotten infrastructure. What were these structures meant to do? Theories spiral from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some scientists suggest they could be fossilized tree roots, their organic material replaced by minerals over millennia, a natural process known as pseudomorphosis. Yet the pipe's high iron content and precise cylindrical shapes challenge this explanation. Others propose they're remnants of an ancient industrial complex, perhaps linked to the mythical lost city of the Bai people, who once inhabited the region. Local legends speak of sky gods who descended to build towering structures, fueling speculation about extraterrestrial visitors. The pipe's alignment adds another layer of intrigue. Several point directly toward a nearby saltwater lake, where more metal debris litters the shore like scattered puzzle pieces. Could this have been a primitive energy system, a water purification network, or something far beyond our understanding? The debate intensifies when examining the pipe's composition. Lab tests show traces of rare earth metals and an unusual ratio of silicon dioxide to iron oxide, unlike anything found in natural geological formations. Stranger still, some sections appear welded or fused, techniques not associated with any known ancient culture. Critics argue that the dating methods might be flawed, or that the pipes could be the work of a 20th century mining operation gone undocumented. But if that's true, why are there no records, no tools, no signs of human activity to explain their construction? What makes the Beggong Pipes so captivating isn't just their enigma, it's their kinship with other global anomalies. From the Iron Pillar of Delhi to Costa Rica's stone spheres, our planet is dotted with artifacts that defy conventional timelines. Could these pipes be evidence of a cyclical history where civilizations rise, fall, and leave only cryptic fragments behind? Or do they hint at a more radical idea, that advanced knowledge flickered sporadically across the ancient world, seeded by contact we've yet to comprehend? As we leave these rusted riddles behind, another artifact calls from the shadows, one tied not to industry, but to the sacred. Hidden beneath the sands of Egypt lies an object so steeped in ritual, it blurs the line between devotion and dark magic. The Phaistos Disk sits in its museum case like a silent challenge to every codebreaker who's ever laid eyes on it. Unearthed in 1908 from the Minoan Palace of Phaistos on the island of Crete, this 6-inch clay disc is a masterpiece of mystery. Pressed into its surface are 241 symbols, arranged in a tight spiral on both sides, not handwritten, but stamped with individual seals, making it one of the earliest examples of movable type in history. Yet for all its precision, the disk's message remains stubbornly opaque. The symbols themselves are a tantalizing mix of the familiar and the alien. Human figures, birds, fish, and plants alongside geometric shapes that defy interpretation. No other artifact like it has ever been found, leaving linguists to wonder, is this a sacred hymn, a royal decree, or perhaps an ancient shopping list? Attempts to decipher the disk read like a who's who of cryptographic genius. Some researchers claim it's a form of Linear A, the undeciphered script used by the Minoans. Others argue the symbols resemble hieroglyphs from Anatolia or even an early form of Greek. One particularly creative theory suggests it's a musical composition, with the spiral representing a melodic sequence. The problem: without a bilingual inscription, a Rosetta Stone for the Minoan world, every translation remains speculative. Even cutting-edge AI algorithms, trained on thousands of ancient texts, have failed to find patterns conclusive enough to crack the code. The disk's isolation compounds the puzzle. Found amidst linear tablets and everyday pottery, it feels both central to Minoan culture and utterly singular, as if it were dropped from another time. What makes the Phaistos Disk so mesmerizing isn't just its unreadability, but what it implies about lost knowledge. The Minoans were masterful engineers, their palaces equipped with advanced plumbing and earthquake-resistant designs. Could this disk be a technical manual, encoding architectural secrets or navigational charts? Or does its spiral pattern hint at something more celestial, a map of the stars or a ritual calendar tied to Crete's volcanic cycles? The symbol's repetition suggests a structured language, not random artistry, but without context, we're left tracing shapes in the dark. The disk's craftsmanship raises equally intriguing questions. The precision of the stamped symbols implies the existence of a full set of reusable type, centuries before similar technology appeared elsewhere. Why hasn't any other stamped text been found? Was this a prototype, a royal vanity project, or part of a broader tradition lost to time? Even the clay itself tells a story, local material, fired at low temperatures, as if the disk were meant for temporary use rather than immortality. Yet here it endures, outlasting empires. Perhaps the most humbling lesson of the Phaistos Disk is how much we still don't know about the ancient world's diversity of thought. For all our advances, a simple clay circle can still leave us speechless. It stands as a reminder that history isn't a puzzle with all the pieces present. Some gaps may never be filled. And if a culture as influential as the Minoans could leave behind a message we can't read, what other voices have been silenced by time? Now, let's shift from unreadable texts to tangible feats of engineering. Our next artifact doesn't just whisper secrets, it roars with the ingenuity of a civilization that bent stone and water to its will. Deep in the jungles of Cambodia, a hydraulic system so advanced it rivals modern marvels. The Moai of Easter Island stand as silent giants, their impassive faces gazing inland from the slopes of a remote Pacific island. These towering stone figures, some weighing over 80 tons and standing 33 feet tall, were carved from compressed volcanic ash by the Rapa Nui people between 1300 and 1500. But here's what truly defies belief. How did a society without wheels, metal tools, or draft animals transport these colossal statues up to 11 miles across rugged terrain? The mystery has spawned theories as varied as the island's own legends, each more fascinating than the last. One persistent idea involves a system of ropes, sledges, and sheer human muscle. Experiments show teams could walk the moai upright by rocking them side to side, a technique that aligns with oral histories describing the statues moving themselves. But critics point to the island's uneven landscape littered with fallen moai as evidence this method might have been risky or incomplete. Another theory suggests log rollers, though this clashes with the island's deforestation timeline. The most captivating explanation comes from local folklore that the statues were animated by a mana, spiritual energy that allowed them to glide effortlessly at a chief's command. Could this myth preserve a kernel of truth about lost engineering knowledge? The moai's creation is only half the puzzle. Their purpose reveals even deeper layers. Unlike typical monuments celebrating rulers, these statues likely honored ancestors, serving as conduits between the living and the dead. The iconic red stone topknots or pukao, balanced precariously atop some heads, may represent ceremonial hairstyles or symbols of authority. But the most haunting detail lies in their eyes. Excavations uncovered carved coral eyeballs with obsidian pupils only inserted during rituals, as if activating the statues. Imagine standing before a moai as its blank sockets suddenly gleamed to life in the torchlight, transforming stone into a watchful presence. What makes these monoliths especially poignant is their connection to ecological collapse. As the Rapa Nui depleted resources, clan rivalries toppled moai in waves of iconoclasm. The very statues meant to ensure prosperity may have accelerated societal decline, a cautionary tale about ambition and sustainability. Yet even in their fallen state, they whisper of a civilization capable of extraordinary feats with nothing but stone tools and collective will. This brings us to an even broader mystery. The moai aren't alone in their defiance of conventional history. From Stonehenge's aligned monoliths to Cambodia's Temple Mountains, ancient cultures globally manipulated stone on scales that still stagger engineers. The similarities between distant sites, precise angles, astronomical alignments, megalithic construction hint at either universal human ingenuity or something more provocative, forgotten connections across oceans and eras. As we turn from Easter Island's giants, another artifact waits, one that suggests these scattered wonders might be fragments of a much larger, lost narrative. The Kensington Runestone sits at the heart of one of North America's most contentious archaeological debates. Discovered in 1898 by a Swedish immigrant farmer in Minnesota, this 200-pound slab of Greywacke sandstone bears a cryptic inscription in runes, an alphabet used by medieval Norse societies. At first glance, the message appears straightforward. A group of 8 Goths and 22 Norsemen claim to have journeyed inland from their ships, surviving an attack in the year 1362. If genuine, this would mean Viking explorers ventured deep into mainland America nearly 130 years before Columbus, rewriting the history of transatlantic contact. But here's where the controversy ignites. Linguists have clashed over the runestone's authenticity for over a century. The runes themselves are a bizarre hybrid, mixing medieval Swedish, Norwegian, and even archaic forms that shouldn't coexist in a single inscription. Some scholars argue the text contains anachronistic wordings and grammatical errors no educated Norseman would make. Others counter that isolated Norse settlements, cut off from Europe, might have developed unique linguistic quirks. The stone's physical context adds another layer of intrigue. Found tangled in the roots of an aspen tree estimated to be at least 70 years old when felled, the stone's burial suggests it wasn't a recent plant. Geological studies of the weathering patterns in the inscription grooves hint at centuries of exposure, though critics insist the marks could have been artificially aged. Then there's the tantalizing circumstantial evidence. The stone was discovered near a network of lakes and rivers that could have served as a natural highway for explorers moving westward from Hudson Bay. Local Ojibwe oral traditions speak of white strangers who traveled through the region long before European colonization. Even the stone's reference to islands aligns with Minnesota's glacial landscape, dotted with landforms Norse travelers might have recognized from their homeland. But without corroborating artifacts, a sword, a settlement, or even a single Norse skeleton, the runestone remains an outlier, a single thread in a tapestry that might never be fully woven. What makes the Kensington Runestone so compelling isn't just the question of its legitimacy, but what it reveals about our hunger for connection. Whether medieval hoax or genuine relic, it forces us to confront the gaps in our historical narrative. Could there have been fleeting, unrecorded encounters between Norse explorers and indigenous peoples, lost to time because they left no permanent mark? Or does the stone reflect something even more profound, the universal human urge to leave a message, to shout across the centuries, "We were here"? As we turn from this runic riddle, another artifact whispers of an entirely different kind of ancient knowledge. Buried in the high Andes, a collection of skulls bearing precise surgical cuts raises a startling question. Did a pre-Incan civilization master brain surgery thousands of years before modern medicine? Nestled high in the Indian Himalayas at an altitude of over 16,000 feet, lies a glacial lake that holds one of history's most chilling enigmas. Rupkund, better known as Skeleton Lake, is a shallow body of water surrounded by the bleached bones of hundreds of individuals, men, women, and children who perished here over 1,000 years ago. When British explorers first stumbled upon the site in 1942, they assumed it was the remains of a wartime tragedy. But carbon dating revealed something far older and more mysterious. These skeletons dated back to the 9th century, all victims of a single catastrophic event. The question that haunts researchers to this day: what could have killed so many people in such a remote, inhospitable place? Theories range from the scientifically plausible to the eerily speculative. The most widely accepted explanation points to an abrupt and violent hailstorm. Many of the skulls bear distinctive, deep cracks not from weapons, but from impacts consistent with large, round objects. In the thin air of the Himalayas, hail can grow to the size of cricket balls, and a sudden storm could have turned the basin into a death trap with no shelter. This theory gained traction when local folk songs were uncovered, describing a goddess so enraged by outsiders defiling her mountain sanctuary that she rained death upon them, hard as iron. But not all the evidence fits. Some skeletons show signs of healed fractures, suggesting they survived earlier trauma, while others have no head injuries at all. Could there have been multiple causes of death, or was the hail just the final blow to an already weakened group? Then there are the darker possibilities. The presence of women and children makes a military massacre unlikely, but ritual sacrifice can't be ruled out. The lake sits on a pilgrimage route, and ancient cultures sometimes offered lives to appease mountain deities. Another twist emerged when genetic analysis revealed 3 distinct groups among the dead, some closely related to modern South Asians, others with ancestry linked to the Eastern Mediterranean, and a third group from Southeast Asia. How did such a diverse gathering end up in this remote location? Were they traders, pilgrims, or part of a royal entourage? The Mediterranean connection has sparked wild speculation about a lost contingent of Alexander the Great's army, though timelines don't align. More likely, it reflects the interconnectedness of the ancient world, where people traveled farther than we often assume. What makes Rupkund so haunting isn't just the scale of the tragedy. but how it mirrors other mass burial sites across the globe. From the mass graves of Viking warriors in England to the catacombs of Paris, these spaces force us to confront the fragility of life and the suddenness with which it can be extinguished. But Rupkund stands apart because of its isolation. Unlike battlefields or plague pits, this wasn't a place where people lived. It was where they died, far from home, their stories frozen in time. The lake's icy waters preserved clues like leather shoes, jewelry, and even fragments of clothing, offering fleeting glimpses into who these people were. Yet their final moments remain a riddle locked in the thin air of the Himalayas. As we leave these bones to their mountain silence, another artifact calls to us, one that guided ancient travelers across trackless seas. Unlike the tragedy of Rupkund, this next relic speaks of human ingenuity and the relentless drive to explore. Buried in the sands of the Middle East, a device so advanced, it redefined what we thought possible for its time. Beneath the turquoise waters off the coast of Turkey lies a time capsule from the Bronze Age, the Uluburun Shipwreck. Discovered in 1982 by a sponge diver near Kars, this 3,000-year-old vessel wasn't just carrying goods, it held the blueprint of an interconnected ancient world. The ship's belly was stuffed with treasures that read like a map of the Mediterranean: copper ingots from Cyprus, ebony from Egypt, amber from the Baltic, glass from Mesopotamia, and even a golden scarab bearing the name of Nefertiti. Each artifact whispers of trade routes stretching thousands of miles, proving that globalization isn't a modern invention, it's as old as civilization itself. What makes this wreck so extraordinary isn't just its cargo, but the questions it leaves unanswered. The ship's construction, cedar planks fastened with pegs, hints at Levantine craftsmanship, yet its destination remains a mystery. Was it bound for a Mycenaean palace, a Hittite fortress, or a port no historian has yet named? The presence of personal items, like a merchant's balance scale and a collection of Canaanite jewelry, suggests a cosmopolitan crew, perhaps speaking multiple languages as they bartered under the stars. Even the ship's final moments are a puzzle. Found with its mast snapped and cargo scattered, did it fall victim to a sudden storm, or was it overloaded with riches from too many stops along its journey? The Uluburun's true revelation is the scale of Bronze Age ambition. Tin from Afghanistan mixed with Cypriot copper in its hold would have produced enough bronze to arm an army, revealing how entire economies depended on these risky sea voyages. A single ship like this could alter the balance of power between kingdoms, but here's the haunting part. If one wreck contained such wealth, how many other vessels laden with silk, spices, or even ideas vanished beneath the waves without a trace? The Mediterranean's floor might be littered with ghost ships, each holding fragments of lost history. As we piece together the Uluburun story, another artifact calls to us from the heavens. Far from the sea, nestled in the sands of the Sahara, an ancient observatory suggests our ancestors didn't just cross oceans, they mapped the cosmos with startling precision. The Viking Sunstone sounds like something ripped from legend, a mystical crystal that could pierce through clouds to reveal the hidden sun. Yet this wasn't just poetic fantasy. Norse sagas like the Rotholfsthottir describe sailors using a solarstein or sunstone to navigate when the sky was shrouded in gloom. For centuries, historians dismissed it as myth until a startling discovery in a shipwreck off the English Channel. Buried among the timbers of a 16th-century vessel, a descendant of Viking shipbuilding traditions, lay a translucent calcite crystal. When held to the sky, this unassuming mineral does something extraordinary. It polarizes light, filtering scattered rays to reveal the sun's position even through dense fog or twilight. Suddenly, the saga's claims didn't seem so far-fetched. How did Vikings, often stereotyped as brute raiders, develop such sophisticated technology? The answer lies in their deep understanding of natural phenomena. Calcite's unique property, now called birefringence, splits light into two beams. By rotating the stone until these beams align in brightness, a navigator can pinpoint the sun's location with astonishing accuracy. This wasn't magic, it was proto-science honed through generations of Arctic voyagers who couldn't afford to wait for clear skies. Modern experiments prove the technique works, with error margins as small as 1 degree. Imagine the advantage this gave Viking longships, allowing them to strike across the North Atlantic to places like Newfoundland, while others clung to coastlines. But the Sunstone raises a broader question. What other ancient navigation tools remain hidden in plain sight? Polynesian wayfinders memorized star paths and ocean swells, while Arab traders relied on the camel, a simple wooden card that measured latitude by the stars. Even the humble lodestone, guiding Chinese explorers centuries before the compass reached Europe, hints at a global tapestry of lost techniques. These weren't just tools, they were the product of civilizations that turned observation into precision, blending art and science long before the age of instruments. The real wonder isn't that Vikings possessed such a stone, but that its secret faded so completely. By the time European explorers ventured into open oceans centuries later, they relied on fragile compasses and dead reckoning, unaware their ancestors had cracked the sky's code. It makes you wonder how much other ancient knowledge slipped through history's cracks, leaving only whispers in sagas or buried in shipwrecks. This thread of forgotten innovation leads us to our next artifact, one that crackles with even more startling implications. Because if ancient cultures could harness light to conquer the seas, what might they have done with the very forces of nature itself? Hidden in the sands of Mesopotamia lies an object that suggests our ancestors might have tamed electricity long before we thought possible. The Laden Papyrus reads like a chemist's notebook from another world, one where science and magic blurred into something extraordinary. Discovered in Egypt and now housed in the Netherlands, this 3rd century text doesn't just list potions or spells. It contains startling instructions for constructing devices that crackle with modern familiarity. One passage details how to suspend gold foil between 2 rods, then generate a divine spark by rubbing them with cloth. Another describes vessels that, when arranged just so, produce light without flame. To some researchers, these aren't allegories, they're blueprints for primitive electrical experiments, centuries before Galvani and Volta would discover electricity in Europe. What makes the papyrus so electrifying isn't just its content, but its context. Ancient Egyptians were masterful metallurgists, crafting gilded artifacts with techniques we're still deciphering. The Baghdad Battery, which we explored earlier, proves they understood basic galvanic principles. Could the Laden Papyrus be documenting another facet of this lost knowledge? The text's language is deliberately obscure, mixing technical terms with religious symbolism, perhaps to protect secrets, or because early scientists lacked vocabulary to describe phenomena they didn't fully understand. Imagine an artisan observing static sparks from polished amber, or noticing how certain fish delivered jolts, then attempting to replicate these forces in ritual context. The debate intensifies when examining parallel traditions. Greek texts speak of the ephod, a priestly breastplate that allegedly glowed when divine judgments were rendered. The Dendera light relief's bulb-like carvings might depict similar technology. Even the Bible's Ark of the Covenant, described as emitting deadly energies, fits this pattern of sacred electrochemistry. Were these all metaphors or fragments of a forgotten discipline where science and spirituality intertwined? Yet skeptics offer compelling counter-arguments. The papyrus could simply describe gilding techniques, with sparks being poetic flourishes. Without surviving devices to match the text, proof remains elusive. But here's what lingers. If one scroll hints at such advanced concepts, how many others were lost when Alexandria's great library burned? The Laden Papyrus is a whisper of possibility that ancient minds might have grasped forces we consider modern, only to have that knowledge scattered like ashes. Now let's shift from sparks to siegecraft. Another artifact suggests that when ancient engineers turned their minds to warfare, they achieved devastation on a scale that still echoes through history. Hidden in the ruins of a Roman fortress lies a weapon so fearsome, it redefined the limits of ancient ballistics and perhaps inspired myths of dragon fire. The Greek fire was the ancient world's most terrifying secret weapon, a liquid inferno that clung to ships, burned on water, and turned the tides of battles for the Byzantine Empire. First deployed in the 7th century, this incendiary marvel was so devastating that its exact composition remains one of history's best-kept secrets. Imagine the horror of enemy sailors watching flames race across the waves, unstoppable even as they plunged into the sea. The Byzantines called it liquid fire, and for centuries it was their ultimate trump card, wielded against Arab fleets and Viking raiders alike. But how could a substance defy the most basic laws of nature, igniting even on damp wood and resisting all efforts to extinguish it? The key to Greek fire's nightmarish effectiveness lay in its delivery system. Loaded into pressurized bronze tubes known as siphons, it could be sprayed onto enemy vessels like a flamethrower, creating walls of fire 30 feet high. Contemporary accounts describe its eerie glow at night, illuminating the Mediterranean like some unholy aurora. Some historians speculate it was a volatile cocktail of quicklime, petroleum, and pine resin materials known to the Byzantines, but modern recreations fizzle out pathetically compared to the apocalyptic blazes described in texts. The missing ingredient, that's the heart of the mystery. A few tantalizing clues survive. Byzantine manuals hint at a substance harvested from black stone, possibly naphtha or bitumen, while others suggest secret additives like sulfur or saltpeter to intensify combustion. The most compelling theory points to a now-lost refining process, one that transformed crude oil into something far more potent. What's most fascinating isn't just the chemistry, it's the empire's fanatical secrecy. Emperors decreed death for anyone leaking the formula, and knowledge was compartmentalized so thoroughly that only one family, the Kallinikos clan, allegedly knew the full recipe. When Constantinople fell in 1453, the secret may have died with its last guardians, but was Greek fire merely a weapon or something darker? Its use blurred the line between warfare and alchemy. Some accounts claim it couldn't be quenched by vinegar, sand, or even urine, only by smothering it with sand mixed with seaweed. This has led scholars to wonder, could it have been an early form of chemical warfare, designed to suffocate victims with toxic fumes as much as burn them? The legacy of Greek fire lingers in modern military technology, from napalm to thermobaric weapons. Yet its true brilliance lies in the psychological terror it inspired. Enemy ships would scatter at rumors of its deployment, and entire campaigns were shaped by its mere potential use. That's the paradox of this artifact. Its power stemmed as much from myth as from flames. The Byzantines understood something profound. Sometimes the most devastating weapon is the one your enemy believes you possess. As we extinguish the flames of this mystery, another artifact emerges from the shadows, one tied not to war but to worship. Hidden deep in the jungles of Mesoamerica, a ceremonial blade said to draw blood without touching flesh awaits its turn in the spotlight. the crystal skulls have fascinated and mystified explorers, archaeologists, and conspiracy theorists for over a century. These hauntingly beautiful carvings, meticulously shaped from solid quartz, bear an uncanny resemblance to human skulls, down to the finest anatomical details. Some are life-sized, weighing up to 30 pounds, with hollowed eyes and teeth so precise they seem ready to speak. But here's where the mystery deepens. Despite claims that these skulls date back thousands of years, possibly crafted by the Maya, Aztecs, or even a lost civilization like Atlantis, the truth is far murkier. Scientific analysis reveals most were likely carved in the 19th century using modern lapidary tools. Yet a handful defy easy explanation, their origins still hotly debated. Take the infamous Mitchell-Hedges skull, arguably the most famous of them all. Discovered in the 1920s by adventurer F.A. Mitchell-Hedges in Belize, it's often hailed as the most perfect example, so flawless that experts argue it would take centuries of manual polishing to achieve such a finish without modern equipment. Legends swirl around it, from claims of psychic visions triggered by touching its surface to rumors it was used in ancient healing rituals. But skeptics point to missing documentation and the lack of similar artifacts in verified archaeological context. If these skulls were truly revered by ancient cultures, why haven't any been found in tombs or temples alongside other relics? Then there's the question of their purpose. Proponents of the supernatural argue the skulls are energy conduits, capable of storing knowledge or even channeling otherworldly forces. Some New Age believers claim they emit faint vibrations or change color under certain conditions, though scientific testing has yet to confirm these phenomena. Others suggest they were used as ceremonial objects, their translucent quartz symbolizing the duality of life and death. The Maya, after all, revered skulls as symbols of rebirth, and quartz was prized across Mesoamerica for its perceived connection to the divine. But the most tantalizing theory involves their alleged collective power. According to one legend, 13 crystal skulls exist worldwide, and if reunited, they'll reveal hidden wisdom or even avert global catastrophe. It's a romantic idea, one that's fueled countless books and movies, but archaeology offers a more grounded perspective. The sudden appearance of these artifacts in the late 1800s coincides with a European fascination with exotic antiquities, a market ripe for skilled forgers. Even the British Museum and Smithsonian have admitted their skulls are likely 19th century fabrications, crafted to feed the era's appetite for the mysterious. Yet, what if a few genuine examples are still out there, waiting to be authenticated? The possibility lingers, reminding us that history's shadows often hold more questions than answers. And if something as enigmatic as the crystal skulls can blur the line between ancient and modern, what other artifacts might be hiding in plain sight, their true stories still untold? This brings us to an artifact that doesn't just play with our perception of time, it shatters it entirely. Hidden beneath layers of volcanic ash lies an object so out of place, it suggests civilizations may have risen and fallen long before our recorded history began. The Ica Stones are the kind of artifacts that make you question everything you thought you knew about human history. Discovered in the 1960s near the Peruvian town of Ica, these thousands of andesite rocks are etched with scenes so bizarre they defy conventional timelines. Some depict humans hunting or interacting with creatures unmistakably resembling dinosaurs, triceratops, stegosaurs, even pterodactyls soaring overhead. Others show advanced medical procedures like organ transplants and cesarean sections performed with precision. If authentic, these carvings would rewrite history, suggesting that an ancient civilization somehow knew about creatures that vanished 65 million years before humans walked the earth. But here's where the controversy ignites. The stones first gained attention when a local farmer, Basilio Ashuya, claimed to have found them in a cave. Later, he admitted to carving some himself, using modern tools and aging them with cow dung. Skeptics seized on this confession as proof the entire collection was a hoax, pointing to inconsistencies in the artwork style and the lack of stratified archaeological context. Yet not all the stones fit neatly into this explanation. Some exhibit weathering patterns suggesting centuries of exposure, and independent geologists have dated a subset to over 12,000 years old. The carvings themselves display anatomical details of dinosaurs, like the correct number of vertebrae in a brachiosaur's neck, that weren't fully understood by modern science until the late 20th century. How could a 20th century farmer with no formal education replicate such specifics? The mystery deepens when examining the stone's broader context. Similar motifs appear in other ancient artifacts, like the Acambaro figurines of Mexico, which also show humans alongside prehistoric beasts. Indigenous legends across the Americas speak of great lizards that roamed the earth alongside people, raising the possibility that these stones preserve ancestral memories of a time when humans and dinosaurs coexisted. Or perhaps they're evidence of an advanced civilization that unearthed fossils and recorded their findings, much like modern paleontologists. Then there's the fringe theory. Could these carvings be literal records of a lost epoch when humans and dinosaurs somehow shared the same era? What makes the Ica Stones so compelling isn't just their shocking imagery, but what they reveal about the boundaries of historical interpretation. Even if some are modern forgeries, their sheer volume, over 15,000 stones, suggests they tap into something deeper, whether collective myth or suppressed knowledge. They force us to confront uncomfortable questions. How much of the past has been lost to time? And if one culture could preserve such startling imagery, what other truths might be hidden in plain sight? As we leave these enigmatic stones behind, another artifact calls to us, one that doesn't just challenge history, but the very fabric of time and space. High in the Andes, a celestial map carved in stone suggests ancient astronomers might have understood the cosmos in ways we're only beginning to grasp. The Dogu figurines stare out from Japan's prehistoric past with an otherworldly gaze that's impossible to ignore. These small, hollow clay sculptures, crafted by the Jomon people between 14,000 and 300 years before the Common Era, are unlike anything else from their time. With their exaggerated, almost alien proportions, bulging eyes, slender limbs, and torsos etched with intricate swirling patterns, they look less like human representations and more like visitors from another dimension. Some even sport what appear to be helmets, visors, or breathing apparatuses, fueling wild speculation about ancient encounters with extraterrestrials. But strip away the sci-fi allure, and you're left with a genuine archaeological puzzle. What compelled these ancient artisans to create such bizarre and mesmerizing forms? Archaeologists generally classify dogu as ritual objects, possibly used in healing ceremonies or fertility rites. Many were deliberately broken before burial, a practice thought to transfer illnesses or misfortunes from the afflicted person into the figurine, which was then ritually killed. The Jomon culture, known for its advanced pottery techniques and semi-sedentary lifestyle, left no written records, so we're left to interpret their symbolism through modern lenses. The figurines' wide hips and pronounced bellies suggest connections to childbirth or abundance, while their eerie, geometric faces might represent spiritual masks or shamanic visions. Yet the more unconventional theories persist, and for good reason. Take the spacesuit Dogu from the Kamegyoka site. Its streamlined body, goggle-like eyes, and what looks like straps or fittings around the neck and shoulders bear an uncanny resemblance to modern astronaut gear. Proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis argue these details are too precise to be coincidence, pointing to similar, space-suited figures in other ancient art, like the Wandjina petroglyphs of Australia or the carvings of the Hopi tribe's sky gods. But here's the twist: the Jaman people were masterful observers of nature. Could these designs have been inspired by natural phenomena, like the distorted reflections of faces in water or the protective gear worn by divers harvesting shellfish? Without context, we're left balancing imagination against the fragments of a lost worldview. What makes the Dogu truly captivating isn't just their form, but their cultural endurance. These figurines weren't isolated oddities. Over 20,000 have been unearthed across Japan, suggesting they held deep and widespread significance. Their stylistic evolution from early, simple forms to later, more elaborate designs hints at a living tradition, one that adapted over centuries. Some scholars believe they were talismans, meant to bridge the human and spirit worlds. Others see them as early attempts to depict genetic anomalies or neurological conditions, frozen in clay as a form of prehistoric medical documentation. This ambiguity speaks to a broader truth about ancient art. From the Tassili Ennaja cave paintings in Algeria, which seem to show floating figures, to the Val Camonica rock carvings in Italy depicting beings with radiating heads, humanity has always grappled with representing the unexplainable. Were these flights of artistic fancy, or attempts to record encounters with something beyond their understanding? The Dogu, like all great mysteries, refuse to give easy answers. They stand as a reminder that the past is never as simple as we'd like it to be, and that sometimes the most profound questions are the ones that linger. Now, let's shift from enigmatic figurines to the tangible marvels of ancient engineering. If the Dogu challenge our understanding of art and belief, the next artifact redefines what we thought possible in construction. Hidden beneath the streets of Rome, a network of tunnels reveals a mastery of architecture so advanced it rivals modern urban planning. The Coral Castle stands as a monument to one man's obsession, and a riddle that defies every law of conventional engineering. Nestled in Homestead, Florida, this sprawling stone garden was the life's work of Edward Leedskalnin, a 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant who single-handedly quarried, carved, and arranged over 100 tons of coral rock between 1923 and 1951. The numbers alone are staggering: massive blocks weighing up to 30 tons, precision cut to interlock without mortar, including a 9-ton gate that pivots with the touch of a finger. But here's what truly baffles experts. Leedskalnin worked mostly at night with no witnesses, using only hand tools like pulleys and chains. When asked how he moved these monoliths, he'd simply smile and say he understood the secrets of the pyramids. What secrets exactly? Theories range from the plausible to the fantastical. Some engineers suggest he mastered counterbalance techniques, using the coral's porous structure to his advantage. Others point to his fascination with magnetism. Leedskalnin filled notebooks with cryptic diagrams of perpetual motion holders and claimed all matter was just individual magnets. Could he have discovered a way to manipulate gravitational fields or harness Earth's electromagnetic energy? Skeptics argue he merely repurposed old-fashioned block and tackle systems, his small stature forcing him to innovate with leverage and patience. Yet even this explanation falters when confronting the castle's most enigmatic features, like the 28-ton obelisk or the perfectly aligned Polaris telescope, accurate to within a fraction of a degree. The site's mythology only deepens when you consider Leedskalnin's backstory. He built the castle as a tribute to a lost love, a woman named Agnes who jilted him the night before their wedding. Was his labor a grand gesture of heartbreak, or did Agnes' rejection unlock some latent genius? Visitors report strange phenomena, compasses spinning erratically near certain stones, cameras malfunctioning, even whispers of cold spots where the air feels unnaturally still. Modern attempts to replicate his feats have fallen short. When a team of engineers with heavy machinery tried to reposition one of his blocks in the 1980s, they cracked it irreparably. What makes the Coral Castle so mesmerizing isn't just the how, it's the why. In an age of bulldozers and dynamite, this frail man chose to work in near-total secrecy, leaving behind no blueprints, only riddles. His achievement echoes other megalithic mysteries, from Stonehenge to Sacsayhuamon, where ancient builders seemingly defied the limits of human strength. But unlike those collective efforts, Leedskalnin's work is recent enough that we can still touch the stones he touched, trace the grooves of his chisels, and feel the weight of his obsession. It's as if he dared us to solve a puzzle he knew we couldn't. Now, let's shift from stone to science, because our next artifact doesn't just challenge our understanding of construction. It hints at a prehistoric grasp of biology so advanced it borders on prophecy. Buried in the highlands of Peru, a collection of elongated skulls raises a chilling question. Did an ancient civilization know how to manipulate human DNA? The Sumerian king list isn't just an ancient record, it's a chronological paradox carved in clay. Unearthed across multiple Mesopotamian sites, this cuneiform tablet catalogues the reigns of kings who ruled the city-states of Sumer, but with a twist that defies belief. According to the text, some monarchs reigned for tens of thousands of years, like Uluburun of Eridu, who supposedly held power for 28,800 years. Then there's Enmen-Luwana, a ruler credited with 43,200 years on the throne. These aren't typos or exaggerations, they're deliberate entries in a document that blends history with something far stranger. So how do we make sense of these impossible timelines? One school of thought argues the numbers are purely symbolic, representing dynastic lineages rather than individual lifespans. In this view, a reign might signify the duration of a family's influence or the cultural memory of a golden age. Others propose the figures reflect a different understanding of time altogether, perhaps a lunar or celestial calendar misaligned with our own. But the most tantalizing theory connects these elongated reigns to the Anunnaki, the godlike beings of Sumerian myth who are said to descend from the heavens. Could the king list be a garbled record of extraterrestrial visitors, their advanced longevity misinterpreted by later scribes? The list structure adds another layer of intrigue. It's divided into two distinct epochs, before and after the Great Flood, a cataclysm echoing global deluge myths. Pre-flood rulers boast those fantastically long reigns, while post-flood kings' lifespans shrink to more plausible decades. This shift mirrors the biblical shortening of human lifespans after Noah, suggesting a shared cultural memory of some transformative event. Archaeologists have even found geological evidence of massive flooding in the region around 2,900 years before the Common Era, lending eerie credibility to the tablet's framework. What makes the Sumerian king list truly revolutionary isn't just its content, it's what it reveals about early historiography. Unlike later chronicles focused on battles and conquests, this document blends myth, genealogy, and cosmic order into a single narrative. It forces us to ask, where does history end and legend begin? And if the Sumerians wove such elaborate tapestries of time, what other civilizations might have encoded hidden truths in their king lists? The Mayan Dresden Codex, for instance, tracks celestial cycles with mathematical precision, while the Turin Royal Canon from Egypt omits inconvenient pharaohs entirely, proving that ancient records were as much propaganda as fact. Now let's shift from the mysteries of written time to the enigmas of ancient sound. Because if the Sumerian king list challenges our grasp of history, the next artifact redefines what we thought possible in acoustic engineering. Hidden beneath the sands of Peru, a collection of whistling vessels suggests an ancient culture might have mastered frequencies we're only beginning to understand. The acoustic vases of Greek theaters are a testament to how ancient architects married art and science in ways that still leave modern engineers in awe. Scattered beneath the stone seats of theaters like Epidaurus, these carefully placed ceramic vessels weren't just decorative. They functioned as a sophisticated sound system, amplifying whispers from the stage so clearly that even back-row spectators could hear every word. Imagine standing in an open-air theater seating 14,000 people, yet catching the subtle rustle of an actor's robes as if they were right beside you. This wasn't magic, it was precision engineering. The vases, shaped like bells or urns, were tuned to specific frequencies, acting as resonance chambers that caught and projected sound waves. Their placement followed meticulous calculations, often at intervals matching harmonic intervals in music, proving the Greeks understood acoustics on a level we'd attribute to modern physics. How did they crack the code without oscilloscopes or digital modeling? The answer lies in observation and iteration. Architects like Polykleitos the Younger likely refined designs over generations, noting how certain shapes and materials reflected sound. The theaters themselves were carved into hillsides, exploiting natural topography to funnel voices. But the vases added another layer, a human-made solution to a universal challenge. Recent studies show they effectively reduced low-frequency echoes while boosting mid-range tones, the sweet spot for vocal clarity. It's as if the ancients anticipated principles we now associate with concert hall design, like diffusion and standing wave control. This raises a tantalizing question. If they could manipulate sound so masterfully, what else might they have known? From the helical horns of Celtic ritual instruments to the Nazca's underground resonance chambers, ancient cultures globally seem to have harnessed acoustics for both practical and sacred purposes. The Greeks themselves whispered of the voice of the gods, a phenomenon where certain temples produced eerie vocal effects when wind passed through hidden pipes. Were these innovations accidental or part of a broader, lost science of sound? The acoustic vases also hint at a deeper cultural priority: democratizing art. In a society where theater was both entertainment and civic education, ensuring every citizen could hear was a radical act of inclusion. Today, as we wrestle with audio tech in sprawling stadiums, these clay vessels remind us that sometimes the oldest solutions are the most elegant. Their legacy echoes in modern sound engineering, from the parabolic reflectors of early radios to the bass traps in recording studios. As we marvel at how ancient minds bent sound to their will, another artifact calls to us, one where acoustics weren't just about clarity, but connection to the divine. Hidden deep in the Andes, a collection of ritual whistling vessels holds secrets about how sound could bridge the earthly and the ethereal. The Tully Papyrus reads like a page torn from a science fiction novel, except it's a genuine artifact from ancient Egypt. This fragmented document, attributed to the reign of Thutmose III around 1450 years before the Common Era, describes an event so bizarre it sparked debates for decades. According to translations, scribes recorded fiery disks gliding across the sky in formation, brighter than the sun and silent as shadows. These objects reportedly hovered over the palace before vanishing into the heavens, leaving the pharaoh and his court in awe. To modern eyes, the account screams UFO sighting. But is that interpretation too simplistic, or could this papyrus be one of humanity's earliest records of extraterrestrial contact? Mainstream Egyptologists offer more grounded explanations. The fiery disks might describe atmospheric phenomena like ball lightning or rare solar halos, events that would have seemed supernatural to ancient observers. The papyrus itself is controversial. No original survives, only copies of a transcription allegedly made in the 1930s by an Italian aristocrat named Alberto Tully. Without the original, verifying its authenticity is impossible. Yet the story refuses to fade, partly because it's not alone. Similar accounts appear globally, from the Vedic Vimanas of India to Ezekiel's wheel in the Hebrew Bible. Even the Roman historian Livy wrote of phantom ships seen glowing in the sky. Could these all be misidentified meteors or auroras, or do they hint at something more extraordinary? What makes the Tully Papyrus so compelling isn't just its content, but its context. Ancient Egyptians were meticulous astronomers, tracking stars and planets with precision. For them to note something as anomalous suggests it defied their understanding of the cosmos. The description of the disks changing direction and emitting no sound rules out comets or meteors, which follow predictable paths and often produce sonic booms. This level of detail pushes back against dismissals as mere myth or metaphor. The papyrus also taps into a broader pattern of ancient art and texts that seem to depict advanced technology. The Abydos carvings, for instance, show hieroglyphs resembling helicopters and submarines, though most archaeologists attribute these to palimpsest effects, later carvings overlapping older ones. Still, the cumulative effect is unsettling. If one culture misinterpreted celestial events, why do so many others describe similar phenomena? The Hopi tribes, flying shields, China's pearls that soared like dragons, and even medieval European paintings of cigar-shaped objects in the sky suggest a recurring mystery woven into human history. Perhaps the most intriguing question isn't whether the Tully Papyrus proves ancient alien visits, but why these accounts resonate so deeply across time. Are we projecting modern UFO lore onto the past, or did our ancestors witness something truly inexplicable? The answer might lie not in the skies, but in the human psyche, our timeless urge to explain the unknown with the language we have. As we turn from celestial mysteries to earthly connections, another artifact reminds us that the ancient world was far more interconnected than we often assume. Buried in the sands of Oman, a humble clay tablet hints at trade routes stretching thousands of miles, proving that even in antiquity, the world was smaller than we think. The Roman dodecahedrons are geometric enigmas that have baffled historians for centuries. These palm-sized bronze objects, each with 12 flat pentagonal faces and circular holes of varying sizes, have been unearthed across the former Roman Empire, from Britain to Hungary. No two are exactly alike, yet their consistent design suggests a deliberate purpose. The strangest part, despite hundreds being discovered, not a single Roman text, ledger, or mural mentions them. It's as if these artifacts were so commonplace that no one thought to document them, or so secretive that their function was deliberately obscured. Theories about their use spiral in every direction. Some researchers propose they were measuring devices, perhaps calibrating water pipes or calculating grain volumes, thanks to the holes' precise but inconsistent diameters. Others argue they were knitting tools with threads woven through the holes to create gloves, a theory supported by a few dodecahedrons found with traces of wool. Then there's the celestial angle. Their pentagonal faces align with the 12 zodiac signs, hinting at astrological or calendrical functions, but the most tantalizing idea ties them to ancient metallurgy. When held against candlelight, the holes cast intricate geometric shadows, suggesting they might have been used to teach sacred geometry or even calibrate the alloy ratios of molten bronze. What deepens the mystery is their distribution. Most were found in military outposts or trading hubs, yet none appear in Rome itself. Were they tools for engineers stationed at the empire's edges, or objects traded with cultures beyond its borders? The absence of wear marks rules out utilitarian use, while their occasional discovery in graves implies ritual significance. Imagine a Roman soldier turning one over in his hands, knowing its purpose as instinctively as we know a smartphone's, while to us, it's utterly inscrutable. This raises a broader question. How many other ancient objects remain functionally opaque? From the Neolithic carved stone balls of Scotland to the Olmec jade celts of Mesoamerica, some artifacts resist categorization because their context is lost. The dodecahedrons remind us that history isn't just about what survives, but about the silent gaps where knowledge once thrived. Now, let's shift from geometric riddles to an artifact forged in fire and shadow. Our next discovery doesn't just defy explanation, it defies the very limits of ancient metallurgy, hinting at techniques that shouldn't exist for millennia. The Damascus steel blades of the medieval Islamic world were more than just weapons. They were masterpieces of metallurgy that seemed to defy the limits of their time. When European crusaders first clashed with Saracen warriors, their swords shattered against these shimmering blades, which could slice through armor, hair, and even other swords with terrifying ease. What made this steel so extraordinary? The answer lies in its distinctive wavy surface pattern, resembling flowing water or folded silk, a visual signature created by alternating layers of iron and carbon-rich steel forged under precise conditions. But here's the twist. By the 18th century, the exact technique vanished from history, leaving modern scientists and blacksmiths scrambling to reverse engineer its secrets. Modern analysis reveals Damascus steel wasn't just one material, but a complex alchemy of elements. The original blades were forged from wootz steel, a high-carbon alloy imported from India and Sri Lanka. Ancient smiths heated this steel in clay crucibles, carefully controlling the cooling process to form microscopic structures called carbon nanotubes, an accidental nanotechnology that gave the blades their legendary flexibility and edge retention. These nanotubes, only visible under electron microscopes, acted like a microscopic chainmail, absorbing shock and resisting fractures. Yet attempts to recreate the process today yield inconsistent results. Even with identical raw materials, the blades lack the original's mystical properties. Why? The missing ingredient might be trace elements like vanadium or tungsten from long-depleted mines, or perhaps a forgotten quenching technique involving exotic oils or even animal blood, as hinted at in obscure Persian texts. The loss of Damascus steel speaks to a broader tragedy: how easily advanced knowledge can slip through the cracks of time. Other ancient alloys hint at similar sophistication. The Chinese forged pattern-welded swords as early as the Han Dynasty, while the Vikings created ultra-pure iron blooms using bone charcoal. Some Roman surgical tools show evidence of corrosion-resistant alloys that shouldn't have existed before the Industrial Revolution. These weren't just lucky accidents, they were the products of generations of trial and error, passed down through guilds and wiped out by wars, trade collapses, or simply the death of a master smith without an apprentice. What makes Damascus steel so haunting isn't just its lost recipe, but what it represents about human ingenuity. In an era without spectrometers or temperature gauges, artisans achieved feats we struggle to replicate with supercomputers. Their work forces us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient science, not as primitive guesswork, but as a refined craft honed through centuries of observation and intuition. Perhaps the real secret wasn't in the steel itself, but in the patience to listen to the metal, to understand its whispers as it cooled in the forge. Now we turn from the mysteries of earthbound metals to the celestial. High in the Andes, an artifact carved from stone reveals how an ancient civilization mapped the heavens with startling precision, not with telescopes but with shadows and intuition. The star chart of Senen Mut isn't just a decorative ceiling, it's a celestial time capsule frozen in the tomb of an ancient Egyptian high official over 3,000 years ago. Carved into the limestone above Senen Mut's final resting place, this intricate diagram maps the heavens with a precision that rivals modern star charts. Constellations like Orion and Sirius are plotted alongside planets, their positions so accurate that astronomers have matched them to specific dates in the 15th century before the Common Era. But here's what stuns researchers. Without telescopes or written records of complex calculations, how did the Egyptians achieve such pinpoint accuracy? The answer might lie in a blend of meticulous observation and lost techniques that challenge our assumptions about ancient science. One compelling theory points to the Egyptians' mastery of alignment. Temples like Karnak and Abu Simbel were designed to catch the first light of the solstice sun, proving they tracked celestial movements with ritual precision. The Senen Mut Chart, however, goes further. It doesn't just mark stars, it groups them into decans, 36 segments dividing the night sky to track time. Each decan rises just before dawn at 10-day intervals, creating a celestial calendar. This system wasn't just symbolic, it guided agricultural cycles and religious festivals. Yet the chart's true marvel is its inclusion of celestial bodies invisible to the naked eye, like the faint cluster of the Pleiades. Did they use polished bronze mirrors to enhance their view, or was this knowledge passed down from an even older, unrecorded tradition? Then there's the more controversial angle. Some researchers note oddities in the chart, like the depiction of celestial boats ferrying stars, a motif echoed in global myths from Mesopotamian zodiacs to Polynesian navigation lore. Could these represent something beyond metaphor? A fringe hypothesis suggests the chart encodes advanced astronomical knowledge, perhaps even from a pre-pharaonic civilization, or, as ancient astronaut theorists argue, extraterrestrial visitors. Mainstream Egyptologists dismiss this, attributing the chart's accuracy to generations of priest astronomers who memorized star patterns. But the absence of surviving observational tools leaves room for debate. What makes the Senen Mut Chart so haunting is its kinship with other ancient sky maps. The Nebra Sky Disk from Germany, the Maya Dresden Codex's Venus tables. Each culture seemed to develop stellar knowledge independently, yet with eerie parallels. Were they all tapping into a universal human instinct to decode the cosmos, or could there have been cross-cultural exchanges lost to time? The chart's survival is a fluke. Most Egyptian ceilings have crumbled, taking their secrets with them. Perhaps the most tantalizing question isn't how they mapped the stars, but why. For the Egyptians, the sky wasn't just a spectacle, it was the realm of gods and the afterlife. Senen Mut's tomb wasn't just a burial chamber, it was a cosmic elevator, its ceiling a portal to eternity. In that light, the chart isn't just a scientific artifact, it's a bridge between earth and heaven, a reminder that the same stars that guided ancient souls still shimmer above us today, unchanged. From advanced machinery to unexplained symbols, these 36 artifacts aren't just relics of the past, they're doorways to questions we're still struggling to answer. Each one whispers of civilizations that saw the world differently, that achieved feats we're only beginning to comprehend. The Antikythera Mechanism's celestial calculations, the Nazca Lines' sprawling precision, the eerie uniformity of the stone spheres, these aren't anomalies. They're proof that human ingenuity has always reached further than we assume. And if these objects survived the ravages of time, how much more has been lost to war, erosion, or simply the slow decay of millennia. Consider this: every artifact we've explored defies the linear narrative of progress. The Baghdad Battery suggests ancient experiments with electricity. The Sakara Bird hints at aerodynamic dreams. The Piri Reis Map charts lands no European should have known. Together, they paint a picture of a past that's not a steady climb, but a series of peaks and valleys, bursts of brilliance that flickered out, only to be rediscovered centuries later. It's humbling to realize that our modern breakthroughs might be rediscoveries of much older knowledge, but the real magic lies in the unanswered questions. Why did the Voynich Manuscript's author go to such lengths to encode their message? Who were the Ubaid lizard people, and why did their culture fixate on those eerie figurines? The longer we study these objects, the more they resist easy explanations. They're not just puzzles to solve, they're invitations to wonder. And that's the heart of archaeology, not just uncovering facts, but embracing the mysteries that remind us how vast and strange human history truly is. As we wrap up this journey, here's the most thrilling thought of all. These 36 artifacts are just the beginning. For every one we've examined, countless others lie buried in deserts, under oceans, or even hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to look at them with fresh eyes. The next great discovery might be tucked away in a museum basement, mislabeled as a curiosity, or it could be unearthed tomorrow by a farmer's plow or a child's shovel. History isn't a closed book, it's a story we're still writing, one fragment at a time. So what do you think? Have a favorite artifact from today's list, or a theory about one we didn't cover? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing your perspectives. And if you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into history's greatest enigmas. Until next time, stay curious. The past has plenty of secrets left to share, and who knows, the next baffling discovery might be just around the corner. Keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the most ordinary-looking object can hold the most extraordinary